one single piece, two pieces being attacked, and black has to make a decision. In this case, they have to save or one of these two attacked pieces. A situation like this is called fork, where your opponent needs to make a decision either to save one or the other of their pieces. There is no way they can save both, right? So what exactly is a fork? A fork is one of the most interesting chess tactics, and then it's one of the most common chess tactics in or tactics in chess, right? So it is a situation whereby a piece is attacking two pieces, two other pieces, right? Your opponent pieces, and your opponent has to make a decision that they have to save one or the other of those pieces. Then that is a fork. While your opponent is trying to save one piece, they lose the other. Let's take a look at this particular example you are seeing on my screen. We have knight on d5 and black queen on e7 and black king on c7. Now this knight is attacking both of these pieces. That is one of the uniqueness of the knight. It attacks in L shape, right? And if you look at this, you can see how the knight is attacking both of them at the same time. Now this is fork, when a single piece is attacking two or more pieces at a single time or at a particular time, right? So now black needs to make a decision. In fact, black is forced to make just a single decision because whenever your king is under attack, you cannot do anything else, right? So if you have not seen my video, you can watch the video of how the pieces move. Then you know that whenever your king is under attack, you just have to move your king, right? So in this situation, the king must be moved. And when the king is moved to say d8 or d7, black now captures the queen for nothing, right? Black captures the queen. And now black, I mean, white knight captures the black queen. And then, white is ahead of the game, right? That is the situation of fork. Because of the uniqueness of this particular knight, it makes it very, very flexible to jump around. Most players don't see it coming, right? And most times it would have been, it would have done its own part before anybody finds out. So because the way it moves in L shape, it can easily jump around. So players don't really know when the knight is about, to do his its work, right? So that is why the knight is one of the most used piece when it comes to the chess tactics of fork, right? But the knight is not the only piece that can be used for fork. You can use any other piece. You can use the bishop. You can use the pawn. You can use the rook. You can use the queen itself, right? So you can fork. Basically, fork, like I've explained, is you attacking two pieces at a time. And when this happens, you have fork, and any piece can achieve that. So just like I mentioned, it's possible to have fork from the knight where it is attacking a king and another piece, either a queen or any other piece like that. So in a situation where the knight is attacking a king and any other piece, we call it the royal fork. The royal fork because the king is considered royal, and in most situations you would always move the king, not the other piece, while the opponent is going to capture the queen. In this situation, knight is going to most likely capture the queen. But if we have any other um, piece here aside the king, let's say the rook, for example, now black has the choice of moving the queen or the rook, whichever one, and then knight is going to capture the other piece while black captures back. But in this situation, we call this one the royal fork. So let's just look at an example of another fork from a different piece, right? So in this situation, we can see that the fork is coming from a pawn, right? Most of the time, pawn is also one of the sneakiest piece on the board because like it was mentioned, is underestimated. So the expectation of the damage that the pawn can do on the board is most of the time um you know very small from the players. So in a situation like this, you can see how even how small the pawn is. It is forking the two knights, and in this situation, there is no way these two knights is going to escape either of their doom, right? So if this knight should move, then the pawn is going to capture the other knight. So in this situation as well, you have the fork playing out. So the question now is, how do you identify fog? Whether you are trying to use the tactic or you don't want your opponent to use it against you, how do you identify it? So what I want to point out is that this thing is going to come naturally to you when you play it over and over again. But as you try to learn it, so I'm going to explain a method that I use or that I teach my students on how to identify fog when you see them, right? Most of the time, when you see a fog, right, you have to follow, or when you want to identify or be able to spot a fog as a tactic, you have to follow four different steps, which I'm going to list out now. The first one is that you must first identify the position of your knight, right? Because if you are using your knight as a fork piece, then you want to identify the position of your knight. So let's assume that our knight was on e3 initially. Now you identify all the places that your knight wants to go, right? In this situation now, I can draw out all the places that my knight can go. So from here, these are all the places that my knight can go, right? Coming from this same position, excuse me. So from here, I mentioned from here. So the knight, it's already here, but I'm just using this as an explanation to let us know that in a situation where the knight um is on this square, so these are the places the knight can go, right? So it can come here, right? Here, here, and here, right? So these are the places that the white knight can go to. Now, in all of these places, right? That's the first step. Identify the position of your knight, and secondly, you then ask yourself that where can the knight jump to, right? Where can the knight jump to? The knight can jump to any of these squares. Then you now ask yourself the third question, that if my knight should jump to any of these positions, right? If my knight should jump to any of these squares, from where my knight is, when you now look at all of the places that the knight can go to from where it jumps to, is it attacking two of your opponent's pieces, right? From this position now, this knight can go, when the knight jumps from here to this place, it can go to these places, these different places, right? So, but then the knight coming from here to this spot here, right? To this spot is only attacking the queen, right? I know there are a lot of distance. So the knight is coming from this, from e3 is going to f5, right? From f5 is only attacking just a single piece, which is the black queen. That is the only piece it is attacking. So you don't want to go here. But then you now look at from e3 to d5, right? And then you start looking at all of the places that the knight can go to in this particular square as well on e5, and you realize that the knight can actually attack two pieces at the same time from that square, right? And then lastly, after you've been able to spot this fork, that, oh, when my knight jump from this particular square to this one, then I now look around to look at all the places that my knight can go afterwards. I realize that there are two pieces that are under attack. Then I know there is a fork. Then before you now transfer your rook to e5, yeah, to d5 in this situation, you then ask yourself that, is my knight safe on d5? Is my knight going to be safe on d5, right? If there was a black pawn here, for example, right, and you know that when you play knight here, you still attack here, you still don't want to play the knight, because you know when you play the knight and there's a pawn here, you can get captured. So one thing you need for your pieces is safety. You need your pieces to be safe, right? So you can also try to keep your knight safe here, make sure there is safety, and then you can jump to capture and use the tactic, fork tactic, right? So that is how to identify and spot um, what's it called, fork as a tactic, whether you are using it against an opponent or you just want to make sure that your opponent is not using it against you, right? These steps that I've listed, the first one is to identify your knight. The second one is to identify where your knight is going to jump to, right? The third one is to be able to look at your surrounding, right? And see if your opponent, if your knight is attacking two pieces on at least two pieces on all of the squares that the knight can jump to. And finally, when you're about to jump, move the knight, make sure that it is landing on a safe square, right? It is not being attacked by any of your opponent's pieces on that particular square. So if you are able to do this, naturally, when you are playing a game, it's just a mental work. You don't need to write anything down. You just need to do it in your head. And then after you have done it for like few different games, you just realize that it comes naturally to you. You've been able to spot it immediately, and then you keep playing it. Again, practice makes perfection. Okay, so let me show us a few puzzles on how to use the fork tactic, right? So in this situation now, just like I mentioned, the first thing you want to do is that if the fork is going to come from the knight, you have to be able to spot it, right? You have to be able to use it and spot it. Now let's look at this position. We have a knight here, right? And then we have another knight here. So these are our two knights. So the first question you want to ask is that where can my knight go, right? So if I play my knight here, for example, and then from here, I'm going to look at all of the places that I can play my knight to from that particular square. These are the places I can play my knight to. Now, when my knight jump to all of these places, is there anyone where it is attacking two pieces at a time? When my knight jumps like to this place, is there anywhere where it is attacking two pieces at a time? You realize that when a knight jumps to all of these places that I've mentioned, it is never attacking two pieces at a time in any of them. So that means this is out of it. Then you try this one again, right? We have cancelled c5. Then you try d6, and then you check out all of the squares that the knight can go to and see if it is also attacking two pieces at a time from there. You realize that it is not also doing that. And lastly, okay, so we've done these two. We have these other ones as well. We have these other ones as well. So these are all possible places that the knight can go to. So let's try this one next on f6. So let's say the knight goes to f6 and then is attacking these squares. Is attacking these squares, right? So at any point is the knight, at what point is the knight attacking two pieces at a time from here? None, right? So which means that we need to do something in this particular position for us to achieve the what's it called? The tactic, right? So you can see one thing I can notice here is that there is a knight protection here, right? So I can bring my queen here for a check, right? So since my queen is checking already, it means that I can now start, to try to use the tactic that I talked about, right? So here I can see that there's a check coming in here, right? Then I can capture a free piece here. Okay, I don't think this one is about fork. Okay, let's try to see another one. Okay, interesting. So this fork here that we're about to see is coming from a queen, right? It's coming from a queen, and after um you know a move like this, queen check, then this knight can come back here. Okay, okay, interesting, interesting. All right, so one thing about this particular puzzle is that it is a queen, a king, a queen fork, right? And it is a royal fork, right? If you look at it, you see that after this queen to a4, right, you have an attack on the king, and you are threatening to capture this knight. You can see the fork, right? You have two pieces you are attacking. But then the knight went back after the next move, went back to go back to protect it. But unfortunately, there is still a bishop here on g4 that is still free, right? And then the queen is going to capture the bishop, right? So that is how to spot tactics. I hope I can see a knight fork um in this situation, right? So I can use it. So in this place we have a bishop fork. After capturing this bishop, then you have a bishop here, which is a royal fork as well. Attack the queen and then the rook, and then you capture. I'm hoping I could see a knight, right? I could see a knight. So black is playing. Okay. Okay, so this is the fork here, the rook attacking both of these pieces, then you capture this. So I'm still interested in having a nice fork. Let's see if I can still spot it here. Okay, I think this one is between the knight. Okay, yes, beautiful. So this is a nice knight fork, right? So if you look at this position now, and again we are going to spot our knight, and then we look at the places it can go, right? Just because I'm used to this, just because I've been doing this a whole lot of time, I know that my knight is very good on d8, right? My knight is very, very good on d8. Why? Because when I'm on d8, I'm attacking two squares where my opponent pieces are, right? And which is one of the things that you need to take note of. The second step, that whenever you play to, I think the second or the third step that I mentioned, is that whenever you go to, you must be able to attack two pieces with your knight, two of your opponent pieces with your knight from that square. That is to tell you that that is where you need to be. And secondly, you need to ask yourself if this particular square is safe, right? In this case, it is very, very safe, right? There's nothing attacking it, so you can easily come here. But the interesting thing is that you are under attack already, right? If you come here, there is no check here, there is nothing, so your opponent can just bring the rook here and capture your own rook, right? And then they will just sacrifice or leave this bishop for you, right? A rook to a bishop is still a fair game. But the interesting tactic you can use here is that you capture the rook first, which will make the queen to take back. And now the king rather, the king is now in the position of the rook, and you can still play your tactic, and then you attack, you give a royal fork, and then you take a bishop for free, right? So I hope you've been able to enjoy this lesson about chess tactics. In the next lesson, I'm going to talk about Italian opening. So Italian opening is a very interesting chess opening. It is one of the openings that has been played over the years, right? It has been on for a long time. Even grandmasters and strong chess players have used it over the years. For about 300 years ago or thereabouts. So it's been available for a long time. So you don't want to miss this. If you like this, please click the subscribe button and then follow me for more. See you next time.